Welcome to the Lucidez podcast, where I explore everything, because I believe in the infinite, unbounded potential within each of us. This is Shelley, a fellow seeker and a lover of life's mysteries. I invite you to join me and explore your uncharted depths. I had an interesting moment this morning. I guess it's been a morning of kind of a slamming on the brakes and deep reflection. I hurt my back quite seriously. Gosh, it was 2 years ago in April, which is, and it's March right now, so almost exactly 2 years ago, and quite serious, some severe herniation of 2 of the discs, and I was told I needed to have surgery. Decided that I wanted to try to do it without that, and I've had a lot of success. It's been very slow, as I said, 2 years of slow healing, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So this morning, as I was working out, had this twang in my back. Kind of similar, but not the same as the original one. Absolutely terrified me. My back froze up, my mind froze up, my body froze up. I've tried to have a slow morning, just trying to pause and stop and reflect and consider that, my back having that moment isn't the past. I don't need to go through all the pain and agony of months of barely being able to move and breathe like I did last time. But that it could just be instead of a catastrophe, that what happened this morning could be just like an alarm bell, like, hey, there's a lot of pressure going on down here in your lower back. Do you really have the support you need in your life? Are you supporting yourself? Do you have others around you who are supporting you? Are you considering where you're putting your energies? Blah, 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 like all the stuff that I went through last time in order to heal my back. And not that it's the same every time. I'm definitely listening and trying to ask, what is the support that you need? What can I do? And it's interesting this time, the pain, last time it definitely felt like a support issue, that I was not getting the support I needed in my life. But yet I was supporting other people. So there was definitely an imbalance. This time, that's not the words I get are pressure. Like there's this incredible pressure being put on me, on my back, on my lower back, and there's so much pressure, and it just wants to find a release, and just saying those words makes me want to cry. And I don't even know what the pressure is. Obviously the release, I'm sure tears are going to be part of it, just the whole process of releasing whatever energy and pressure is in my lower back. And I'm totally willing and ready and wanting. So it's what I'm working on this morning. And it's also frustrating because I feel like I'm always doing this. And I can hear people in my life saying that to me. And I can't refute that. I can't say, oh, no, you're wrong. But at the same time, I don't know what to do but just continue trying to live through the cycles and hope that I can just make a tiny difference each time, so that, as I always told my son, as I was told by the Native American teacher I had, life isn't a circle, it's a spiral. You're always, although you come back around to a similar place, you've spiraled around to a new place. So I would say this definitely feels like an old cycle. I don't want to be in it again. I'm very much hoping that although it looks and feels somewhat similar, it is energetically different, and I'm in a different place. And not only can I handle it differently, but it is different. And I'm addressing issues that haven't been addressed, and sort of not getting bogged down in the rhetoric that I'm just always stuck in the same place. which is a deep fear of mine. And obviously people have said it to me, and so I feel their judgment as well. So one of the things that keeps coming up is one of the goals that I recently wrote on a previous podcast. I talked about these goals, that how when I first wrote them, I wrote them from my mind, and then I let them distill down into my body, my heart, listen to spirit, and then was given a different directive. And one of them, I can't remember the words exactly, but one of the ones I wrote was cultivate lasting friendships. So my mind is like, yeah, this is definitely a goal I want, cultivate lasting friendships. When I let those words, kind of the energy of that, distill down through the body and the heart and the spirit, the words that came back were learn, trust, and forgiveness. Learn, trust, and forgiveness. So this morning, as my back kind of tweaked, I didn't think much more about it. It's just like, yeah, okay, of course. So when my back kind of tweaked, that it keeps coming up, like learn, trust, and forgiveness. So, and then I really sat with, and the word, that's exactly how the words came. And this morning I realized, I wasn't told learn to trust and forgive. That was not it. So I wasn't told to learn to trust and forgive, which like would include like sort of an other, whether the other was me, my own self, or some other. No, it was learn, trust, and forgiveness. And I was like, wow, it's like asking me to learn what trust is and what forgiveness is. So as I was sitting here this morning, I thought, well, trust and forgiveness are very personal. Like there's no like concrete definition of what trust and forgiveness is. Anybody you asked, I doubt you'd get two of the same answers. You might get similar ones, but trust and forgiveness are very personal. And so I asked myself, well, what is trust to me? And I've kind of been right there, like just the question alone sort of hit me. Like, I don't know. I don't know that I know what trust is. I used to think that if you trust someone, it meant you were safe with them and they wouldn't hurt you. But I know that's no longer true, because I actually don't think that exists. I think that any relationship, there's going to be some kind of opposition at some point, and we get our feelings hurt. So trust for me is no longer, can't just be a place of safety, although there has to be some measure of safety in it, but it can't be ultimate safety, because then neither person has the freedom to move about and, quote, make mistakes or inadvertently harm another. Okay, so then what is trust to me? I think about it some more, and I thought where I'm kind of getting is it's a belief that I have about someone or something. And that was just kind of like a little bit mind-blowing, that trust is just a belief. It's a belief I have that someone's going to treat me a certain way. And that usually, if it involves trust, it means I believe someone's going to treat me well. If I have trust in a situation, it means I trust that this situation is like going to go well. Somehow it's going to be okay. And then I'm kind of stuck, honestly. Well, I don't know if I'm stuck, but I'm just sort of sitting in that trust is ultimately a belief I have. And I talk about dismantling beliefs all the time. And that's often a very good thing. So maybe it's time that I dismantle whatever beliefs I have about trust. Maybe I have no idea what trust is. Or maybe what this is my mind has set up an idea of what trust is and has its belief structure about what trust is. But maybe my heart and my body and my spirit have a different idea, a different definition, a different experience of trust. In this moment, as I stand here and think about this, And I'm literally standing because my back's so funky right now. It's like the one position that feels okay. But as I stand here and think about this, I don't think my heart and my body and my spirit have experienced trust in any even remotely similar to the way my mind has constructed. And as I say that, there's kind of like the emotion, the tears come up, and I'm a little bit afraid. Like I'm afraid that my heart and my body and my spirit are too big. They're too forgiving. They're too trusting. And my mind wants to say, wait, we're going to get hurt. Bad things are going to happen again. We're going to make mistakes. So I feel my mind like really pushing against the feeling of trust and forgiveness in my body and in my heart. I think it's hard for me to accept that at the deepest level inside of me, that trust and forgiveness include sort of this allowance that I might get hurt, and this allowance that I might hurt others, this allowance of making mistakes, the allowance of bad things happening. And what's so funny is, like, logically I can say that's insane. I could never stop bad things from happening. They just think life happens. But there is some smaller part of me that's illogical that says, oh, please, if we just do all the right things, then the bad things won't happen. So I'm going to take a break here and just kind of let this first part simmer and see how the rest of this day goes. I'll check in. Bye-bye. Okay, so it's later this same day, checking back in and diving more deeply into the learn, trust, and forgiveness. I call it a directive. I know it started out as a goal, but I would say it's definitely become more of a directive, a direction, a calling toward. And I've been thinking about forgiveness now. So the calling toward is learn, trust, and forgiveness. So learn forgiveness. And when I ask myself, what is forgiveness inside me? I know I've talked about it before, and the most profound, literally instant of forgiveness I've experienced was with my father. And I would say it was blossoming before he died, but definitely happened like almost exactly in the moment of his death. I was present with him, was holding him. And in that instant, when I knew he had passed, something erupted in me that was one of the greatest joys I've ever had, even though soon after I would be in sorrow at his passing. But in that moment of joy, I would say that was forgiveness. And the forgiveness was, I no longer had any judgment about my father. And I'd like to clarify what that means to me. I no longer had any judgment about my father as a man, as a human being. It's funny now, I'm kind of pausing because I still have judgments. Meaning I look back at my father and he was not a good father. And so I consider that to be a judgment, right? I'm not pretending like he wasn't who he was, or that his actions didn't happen. So I still have judgment about my father's actions. That is still there. That is still present in forgiveness for me. So the judgment is still there. The acknowledgement is still there. There's still the pain. There's still the grief. There's, whatever is associated with the judgment, the experience of what happened. But I no longer sort of judge the core of the man. I don't know how else to describe, and I'm still just learning what forgiveness is for me. I think I've been told it's many things. I've even told myself it's many things. And as I said, now I'm exploring what happens if I dismantle even what I believe forgiveness is. If I dismantle what my mind has constructed, which I think my mind has done a lovely job. I don't think it's done a poor job at all. But I'm just willing to dismantle even that in order to not really destroy it. I would say expand it. Just expand because I do think my mind has created a beautiful construct of forgiveness, but that there needs to be some expansion in order for the heart, for the body, for the spirit to also express forgiveness. So I paused there with forgiveness because it wasn't aligning with my physical, emotional, spiritual experience, what my mind was saying. So my experience of that moment of forgiveness with my dad, and that experience was physical, emotional, spiritual, was an absolute space of non-judgment. And honestly, I don't know why, but a good bit of joy. I would say, if someone asked me what forgiveness was, I would say it was that moment. But it's almost, I guess why I'm confused is it was a moment. And I have those moments still sometimes where I feel this immense joy for and with my father, as though he's with me, for and with him. And there's so much space for us that there's no judgment in any form, in any way. But I think what's confusing for me is I always thought forgiveness was a thing that you did and it was done. But I'm realizing now that I'm speaking that forgiveness for me has been an experience in a moment. But then it's almost like I kind of fall back. I wouldn't even call it an old pattern, or maybe I just come back into a more rational, logical experience. And I don't think forgiveness has any rationale at all. And so I would say, I'm just going to continue using my dad because he's such a great example for me, such a powerful example for me. I would say that I continue to have moments of true and absolute forgiveness for my father. And it's those moments where I experience the joy, the immense space, and complete lack of any judgment. And the other moments, which are the majority of the moments, I'm in the more physical, rational, logical experience of, oh, my dad did this, it felt like this, my dad did this, not a great thing to do as a father, or he didn't do this, also not a great thing to do as a father. I don't know, I'm just trying to breathe here. Breathe in this experience of forgiveness being something that we experience but we don't own and we can't hold on to, and that it's okay that we have those moments of absolute forgiveness, and then it's okay that we come back to the more rational experience of life. That's okay. It's okay that I'm not able, as of yet, to remain in that space of absolute forgiveness for anyone. And maybe there'll come a day when I do. I don't know. I don't want to put that on myself, because then it's like I'm already judging that that's where I should be. That's who I should be. And that doesn't work well for me. So I'm going to say that the experience I'm having right now is quite proper in every way. To know that there are moments of absolute forgiveness, and then there are moments where I'm in a place of rational judgment. And yeah, so I guess forgiveness for me, and I've said this recently to friends when I've been talking to them, forgiveness for me is grace. It's like this moment of where grace descends and like kisses, the kiss is this moment, this experience of joy and space and non-judgment. And then I go on living, learning, and then there'll be a moment again where again grace comes and kisses me with this beautiful experience of forgiveness. And I wish I could hold on to it. I wish I could hold on to that forgiveness and always be that way. And it also, my new understanding of myself and my experience in relationship with forgiveness explains a lot to me. Because having had those moments of deep forgiveness, I'll often ask myself, well, but why are you even still thinking about what your dad did or didn't do? And it's almost like I haven't allowed them both to be true, that you can have those moments of utter forgiveness for someone and then still there may be a need or a reason or a desire or I don't know, but the place to again look at it with rational logic and decide that certain behaviors and actions are not okay. Yeah, I thought forgiveness was a thing that I sort of owned and I did. And I knew it was a gift. But I felt like once I got the gift that it was mine forever. And it seems like the gift is something that, like a flower, it's opened, it blossoms, and then it falls to the floor and sort of withers. And then at some other time in the future, it blossoms again and there's the flower, but no flower is eternal, right? Something that blossoms and falls away, some other time blossoms and falls away. So I guess forgiveness for me is a blossom. Yeah. So, okay, that's that so far. I'll check in later today and we'll see what comes next. I know only a few moments have passed, but for me the day is winding down. And as dusk begins to settle, I feel the shadows start to rise. I don't find that I have any more answers than I had when I woke up this morning. What I do have is a new realization that trust and forgiveness are not what I thought. Not only are they not what I thought, which I actually don't think there's anything wrong with what I thought, but that neither are something that can be held or even really defined. There's something which can be refined and renewed. And to me, they both still feel like part of the mystery of the spiritual journey. That there will always be something left a bit hidden in order for me to explore trust, forgiveness, to learn trust and forgiveness as this body, this mind, this heart, this spirit, this journey. It feels like learning a waterfall. Like I said, something that clearly exists, but you can't hold it. Always fluctuations, always changing, always falling, always movement and motion. Something that is seen and felt and experienced and known, but never static. So we'll see if there's anything more after dusk turns to darkness in this exploration of trust and forgiveness. The night has come, rested upon the land, and the day which began so long ago, it feels like so long ago, and I chose to reflect upon trust and forgiveness because of the returned pain in my lower back. Made me afraid that I was overlooking something in my life and desperate not to have that kind of pain again. I've been trying to search all day for answers or insight, reflections, anything to help me move forward. Or just, even if I don't move, just be okay. Not be in pain. It's frustrating for me. I feel like there's so much pain. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's spiritual. I don't think I'm alone, but I also don't know that I personally know someone that I feel experiences life in this way, but of course I don't really know. Trust and forgiveness seem so far away and so irrelevant. Now it's just a desperation to be done with whatever stage I'm in right now. To get out of the pain, to end the pain, to stop the pain, to anything. So isolated. Trying to protect myself, trying to protect others. Trying to hide the truth. Someone asked me today how I was doing, and I said, I'm struggling. I'm always struggling. That frustrates me. Someone else asked me, just said, you good? I didn't respond, but I wanted to say, I haven't been good for years. That's not a response we give in our society. You're supposed to be good, and if you're not good, you're only not good for a little while, and then you get good. You certainly don't draw it out. You certainly don't get stuck in it. I can't figure out why this happened. Man, my back is hurt again. What I'm supposed to do. Last time it was giving up, an ending of life as I knew it. As I lay here and think about doing that again. Can't even imagine what that would look like. I don't think I'm being asked to give up my home. I'm not sure if I'm being asked to give up my job. I think it's probably a pretty good fit for now, but maybe not. Maybe it's going to be too stressful. I don't deal well with stress. Maybe give up singing. The choir, bell choir, bees. It was a fun idea, but certain types of my exercises, maybe all of it for a while, I don't know. It's frustrating because I've built so much strength in ways I don't know that I've ever had it. It's nice to have, but it's also something still not okay. My body still doesn't work like it used to. I worry it never will. I feel like I've already given up my family, my siblings. I don't have much to do with them. My children, my daughter's gone, and that's so removed. I see my son once a week. It's not like there's a lot there to tie me down or keep me from whatever. I don't really have anyone or anything in my life. So, learn trust and forgiveness. I would say trust is something you give. Because you want to. Knowing there's no guarantee. Ever. And forgiveness is something you receive. Because you want to. Not something you can force. It's the end of the day, and darkness has fully descended. There's actually only a few minutes left in this day. A day which began so long ago. Feels like a long time ago when I began this morning. It's interesting how an injury or pain can cause time to distort. It feels like it's been a very, very long day. As I've been moving carefully through the day physically, not wanting to aggravate my back further. And as I lay here after a long day filled with worry and fear about my back and mediating the pain, I certainly haven't solved any great riddles when it comes to trust and forgiveness. I think the most I've come up with now is trust is something you give because you want to. There are no guarantees. Trust is something you give because you want to, and there are no guarantees. And forgiveness is something you receive because you can, because you want to. And it can't be forced. I think trust and forgiveness are very different, which actually makes me wonder more deeply into that belief. It would be interesting if they were the same. It would be fascinating if I could see one day that they're the same. That trust is synonymous with forgiveness. But I just don't know. What I do know is that I've spent many years defining trust and forgiveness, understanding them as much more concrete principles than I do now. Today has very much been a day of feeling, sensing, perceiving. Trust and forgiveness as fluid experiences. Relative to the situation, relative to my desires, my intuitions. So much interdependence. So much interdependence. And now we have a new day. So we're on our second day of trust and forgiveness. Learn trust and forgiveness. And as I've moved more deeper into, I want to try to explain the physical experience, the energetic experience. I wouldn't say I'm allowing, I wouldn't say I'm learning, wouldn't say I'm understanding. It's more of a submersion, as though I've, like, let's say trust and forgiveness are in this big bubble. Not really like a fluid or gas, somewhere in between. And I'm being slowly submerged into it. Submission also comes to mind. And as I'm being submerged and submitting to trust and forgiveness, I've come to understand that certainly trust doesn't exist without forgiveness. Or I should say long-term. Maybe I should say long-term. I think you can certainly trust someone to a certain degree, and maybe you'll never have to forgive them at certain levels. But the deeper levels of trust, I believe, will always require forgiveness. Something that, I don't know, is just part of life. And I'll tell you kind of the experience that has brought me to that. So as I've been slowly moving through this day, my back is still quite painful, and I've, tried different avenues of managing it, meaning, very just gentle movements. Obviously did my meditation, my Vipassana meditation, just being with the sensations. And then I also did some of just talking to my lower back, listening to it. And through this dialogue, and I often speak out loud when I'm speaking to myself, different parts or whatever, because it helps me, for some reason, it helps me have the conversation better, even though I might be speaking both parts, meaning I'm speaking to my lower back and I am speaking the words my lower back is then responding with. And I was speaking to my lower back earlier this morning, and it was starting to relax and release. And I was just thanking it. I was so grateful that it was, and the words started to come, right? As I started to speak, the words that I said were, "Thank you for trusting me and forgiving me." And I thought, I hadn't thought about trust and forgiveness all morning. I was just mostly concerned with the pain in my lower back. And so when I said those, I thought, that's interesting that I just said the two words that I've been focusing on all day yesterday. And also that I said them in conjunction. So, and I realized in that moment that that my lower back, obviously I had been in some kind of imbalance, and hence had done something that hurt it. And So it triggered the alarm bell. It's like, hey, we're out of balance. But then it was releasing quite quickly for me and coming back into allowing me to move again, to move my body without so much pain. So what I realized was it was forgiving me. My lower back was saying, okay, you've been pushing too hard, you've pushed out of balance, but we understand, and it's funny that I said the word we, but there's like a we down there, but we understand that you are listening and you are acknowledging and you are willing to work with us, and so we are going to trust you again. We forgive you for pushing so hard and sort of like quote unquote hurting us again. We forgive you and we're going to trust you again. And it was an interesting conversation because as the dialogue went back and forth between myself and my lower back, what I realized was that my lower back was willing to trust me again, but it wasn't trusting me to get it right. And I even said that. I was like, okay, I'd like to try again. And it wasn't like my lower back was like, okay, I'm going to trust you, but you've got to get it right. Because of course, I'm not going to get it right? Like it's going to take iterations forever of learning, of just, experiencing and learning and growing and just all the does. And so it was an interesting moment where it was like, it was forgiving me and trusting me and allowing me to try again, knowing full well I wasn't going to get it right. But also, I think what it trusted was that I was going to do a little bit better. I was going to do a little bit better than last time. And I do believe I am doing better than last time. I am listening much more, and I am understanding and seeing more quickly the areas where I'm out of balance in my life. And I am starting to acknowledge certain aspects that maybe it's time to, let go of. Like it might not be the proper activity for me. Not that I don't love it, but it's like, hey, this just doesn't really fit in your life right now. It doesn't bring you into a place of integrity and balance with the journey that you're having right now. So feeling the forgiveness of my lower back and the trust of my lower back to try again, feeling it slowly release through the conversation and allowing me to try again with the understanding that I understand I'm not going to get it quote unquote right. And the lower back understands I'm not going to get it quote unquote right. But what we have committed to is an ongoing dialogue every day. I committed to 7 days. I'm like, for 7 days, every day, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a conversation with you and I'm going to listen and we're going to work through this for the next week. I didn't give myself more than 7 days. I don't expect like everything to be resolved, but if I make something too big, it overwhelms me and I won't do it. And so I was like, okay, I can do 7 days. I know I can do 1 week every day, have a conversation with my lower back. And then in 7 days, I can reassess. But okay, so let's translate this beautiful experience I had with my lower back into a relationship with another person. So I imagine, okay, I have a person in my life and, they've kind of pushed our relationship out of balance in some way. Maybe they've hurt me or done something that hurt me. And I have the choice, based on their level, their willingness, ability level, whatever of communication, I get to then choose my level of forgiveness and trust. And again, my experience of forgiveness is very much something that is I receive, meaning I prepare myself and then one day it just sort of happens and I receive the miracle of forgiveness. And trust is something I give. So I imagine, I don't have to imagine very hard, but there are people in my life, and I'm obviously on the receiving end for other people in my life who have hurt me, some blatantly, others inadvertently. But in either case, their willingness to communicate, to to discuss, to, like I did with my lower back, just like, hey, let's talk about this, what could happen. And that the forgiveness trust cycle begins anew, or it doesn't, it may be over. But if it does begin anew, it begins, I can feel with my lower back that it's beginning again in a small way, though. It's not like suddenly I have the full range of my back and that all that power and strength that lies in my lower back. I still don't have access to that, but it is saying, okay, let's try again, and let's just sort of almost be more mindful than we were last time, because we know it can go awry. But also to sort of test, not even test isn't the word, but I think it's the word is awareness. It seems obvious, but to be aware when it starts to get out of balance. And I think that's why trust and forgiveness feel like they're things you can't hold, because it's a constant iteration, reiteration. It's the waterfall again, where it's a constantly renegotiating, moment to moment, negotiating, navigating, addressing, submitting, submerging, into this process of forgiveness and trust. And I'm going to use the words that are coming to me, even though they're not quote unquote like societally or spiritually correct, but the words that are coming to me are, how much to forgive, how much to trust, how much to forgive, how much to trust. And I know we're supposed to give 100% wholeheartedly, blah, 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 blah. Those aren't the words that are coming to me right now. So I'm just going to go with what's coming, which is this waterfall process but it's like a waterfall that's also recycling. That's how it feels to me. And all waters are the same waters anyway. So the waterfall of, some kind of trust has been broken, and we come splashing down into the pool, and then as we rise back up to fall again, we decide how much trust we're going to give when we kind of take the plunge again, and the level to which we are able or willing to forgive. So it's almost like the trust and forgiveness are working together in a sort of healing, deepening cycle. We trust a little more and we forgive a little more, and then we come around, and then something happens, that sort of churns up the level of trust we have with someone, or destroys it completely, who knows, all levels. But then if the willingness and participation is there on all sides, we come back up, we fall again, because I do think trust is a fall, same as love. We fall again into trust and forgiveness, deepening, until such a time life happens that it's time to renew our levels of trust and forgiveness again. Come falling down into the pool again, regenerate, recycle, renew, rise up, deepening in trust and forgiveness, falling again. So this is my current understanding, and I feel like this feels like sort of not the last, but sort of a resting place for me in trust and forgiveness as I explore trust and forgiveness within myself, with myself, between myself and my lower back. And it's interesting that my lower back has been willing. It's interesting that's going to be my teacher, is my lower back. It's obviously a place of such incredible power, such incredible support, so much energy, the birthplace of so much. And for that such a powerful place to be willing to have these conversations with me, to take the plunge with me, to fall into trust and forgiveness again. Knowing full well I'm going to sort of get something wrong again. We'll plunge down into the pool, we'll talk again, we'll come back up, and we'll do it again and again. So for me to be able to experience this trust and forgiveness, learn trust and forgiveness with what feels to me like a very powerful entity, a very powerful being in my lower back, it really feels like a gift, a blessing, and a safe place for me to explore trust and forgiveness, to learn trust and forgiveness as it pertains, applies, resolves in me. And then slowly begin to take that into my outer relationships, which of course I think that's where it becomes a little bit more sticky, because it's like two waterfalls, right? Like the way you experience and live trust and forgiveness are not the same as me. And so when we come together, each of us is going to bring our own experience, set of belief systems, set of, I was going to say agendas, of what trust and forgiveness are and how they play a role in our life. So then you're also navigating not only your own, but another person's, and honoring and respecting both is of utmost importance, and I think happens through the communication, right? So, and communication is so critical, and it just doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen well. I see so many opportunities in life where I have sidestepped communication. A small handful were wise. I would say the majority were not. And I'm in the past 2 weeks or so, I have been more willing to communicate with people and about the hard stuff. And what's been nice is, I would say, because it's like a willingness, I'm willing to, I'm not actually trying to be right, and I've just shared how I feel about things and how I'm experiencing things, and that has been enough, which is a shift for me. I think in the past my communication was always or often laced with sort of this need to be, I want to say right, but that's not quite it, but validated. I didn't need to be right, but I did need to be validated. And I don't feel that so much anymore. I'm better at validating that my experience is like 100% true and 100% valid. Just because I'm having it. It's weird, the word valid is not striking right for me. My experience is 100% true. It is 100% true. That's probably where I'll stop. So knowing that all of us are having experiences that are 100% true, because we're literally having them, so they can't be false, but they're 100% true, they're happening. And then navigating that truth with others. Wow. I mean, lifetimes. So I think this will end the podcast of truth and forgiveness and what I've explored. And as I think back on last night when I was in so much pain, just so much pain, And I knew at the time, I could feel it, that the pain I was experiencing, so much of it was in the past. I was so afraid of repeating the past. So afraid of repeating the past. And that was where so much of the pain was being generated. And I could tell my mind was going there, and I was just doing my best not to. So, lesson number 1, try to stay present. All right, blessings to you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you for exploring with me on the Lucidess podcast. It is my hope that you discovered new wisdom within yourself and are inspired to live your unique strokes of genius.